This is the Phoenix Props Corruption Exar Kun hilt. Comes with sound holes, 3 of them underneath each grip. But factory put on the adhesive tape covering said holes, so I want more sound coming out of here, especially since it seems a 28mm speaker may not be in the equation here because of a small inner diameter of here. So here's what I suggest. Loosen these each end, a turn or two, so that the center section can sort of rotate. You can bring your working grip that you're working on to the top. These with Scotch tape are ones I have already done, so I'm just marking them so I don't bother going back in. Obviously you want to handle the adhesive as little as possible, and you're going to try not to scratch the existing surface because we are going to be in there with an X-Acto knife and a pair of tweezers. I suggest rounded tip tweezers so you're not going to scrape anything. And this is straight up. You just get under one corner of the grip. I would suggest pulling away at this kind of an angle so you're not bending and creasing this too much. Try to keep it with its net and just let it keep its shape as you just literally peel that off. Oh look, I've already done these. Well, I'm not going to start the video over, but because this actually is not done, I had to go back in here and redo this anyway, because I'll show you why. First of all, here's the bottom of the grip. You can see there's these channels. That's pretty much what you got to let your sound come out. These were solid. There was no holes here. And I cut holes, literally poking in here and just popping out the adhesive that came out with the tweezers. But that's not really letting it get past here. It didn't really help much. So that was kind of a silly thing to do. So here's what I've been doing. I'm cutting from the outside towards the hole so you don't miss and, scrape across the finish. And at the end, see, this one I did sort of splayed, like a trapezoid cutout, taking a little more away from the edge. That's okay. Particularly on this end, you don't want to cut this way because you need as much of this end tip adhesive as possible to keep the end of the grip down. So I'm going to go, if not just, if not perpendicular, even in a little bit, will probably be okay. And then, cut away that little piece that you took out, peel it up a bit, and then just pinch at it with the tweezers, and you'll get that piece of adhesive off there. And again, as much as you might be tempted to now go here and do this, I would suggest flipping it around before you do that. So do all 3 one side and do all 3 the other side. You can rotate this so it's better. I'm going to cut in here, and I'm not cutting too much away from this side. Get it started. Trying not to scrape the finish, obviously. And removing that adhesive. So now sound can come up out of this hole and exit out of either side of this grip. And you do that enough times around the whole hilt, and sound should actually be able to get out pretty well. Obviously try not to touch this as you go along. And once I've done all 3 of these holes, I'm gonna pretty much just line this back up here, holding this edge down, looking straight down with my eye, because this can bend, so you want to make sure it goes on straight. This tape is exactly the same width as this grip, so you don't have a lot of forgiveness or wiggle room. You gotta nail it right back where it came from. And then we'll see how much, I didn't listen to it with the sound holes closed. I didn't even bother. I'm just gonna finish this all the way around. Again, marking the ones that I've done so I don't kind of do what I did, but I did need to come back in here and redo this one anyway, so. There is an alignment situation happening here with this hilt. When you tighten up the ends on the grip, you want it to be clocked straight so that your buttons line up. If you tightened it full and it only went to there, and your other button was fully tightened and it only went to there, that's kind of wonky, right? So there is a nice feature built in to these grips where when you undo these, there are 3 of these. This is Allen key I'm using. This is a 5/64, I think, and that fits for me. Size Allen key. You break these 3 around the hilt, and this whole ring that the emitter threads onto is then free to come out. And if you'll notice here, it's full of these holes. Okay, these holes, if you look back in the previous part of this video, you'll see that the sound venting holes in here are skinny and they're centered on these grips. So these holes allow for some adjustment in the threading so that your buttons can clock straight and everything is aligned. So if you look at the center of this grip here, considering there's a hole in there, you've got anywhere from here to here to adjust. So it's about 60 degrees worth of adjustment. So if you look in here, you can see where the sound holes are, and they go straight through the whole grip. And when this piece fits in, you can see you've got everywhere from about here to here, which will allow that sound hole to vent out to the outside world. So that is how you make an adjustment. So what I've done is I already lined up this end, and I know that, I'll just show you. The point is that when this gets finished, you might have to quote unquote sacrifice your alignment. Like, I have OCD. In my perfect world, I would love this button to be straight in line with this grip piece, or straight in line with the gap between them. You may have to find a happy medium, which in my case is what it ends up being. I have to have that side all the way left. Actually, both ends end up being the same way for me. It just depends on how your threads are cut at the factory, so everybody's might be a little different. But if I find one of those sound holes and get it on camera, here we go. And you put in your piece. For me, I needed to have the hole all the way at the left edge of the adapter piece's hole. And then once that's there, I lock this down. I'll just lock down one for now. It's not going to rotate anymore. And you thread in the emitter. That is where the buttons align and the sound holes are not covered by that ring piece. You want as many of these holes as possible because it's a small little gap coming out in this grip. Center's good, but to have both sides as well, and it's also going to depend on the chassis and where the speaker's laid out. But you know, the more holes, the better. You don't want to close off any options. So that is what I end up with. It is not centered on this gap. It is not centered on a thing. It's a little bit off. You know what? That's fine. I will take louder sound, and in the end, I mean, who really can tell, right? So that is the alignment adjustment that is available for having the threads line up and clock nicely. These are sharp, so I would not suggest putting it in your lap, putting it against your body, or anything that you care about being nearby the tips of these fins. I did not look at how they're on here. They might just be glued in. I might as well take a look while I'm here. They might be screwed in from underneath. No, there's nothing in there. No. This screw secures this little ring adornment thing that goes around the button. The button threads in, so that between the button threaded in and this back bolt screw here, will keep this from rattling. When I got it out of the box, this wasn't really tightened down. It was tight, it was snug, but apparently that wasn't enough because this still had a little play and it was jiggling. So to tighten something tighter, if it's already snug, don't just crank it more, okay? You want to back it off a little bit and then tighten it, and back it off a little bit and then tighten it, and do that repeatedly. Each time you're going to gain an extra little so that you're basically re-threading. You're kind of cutting into the threads a little more, which is odd because it does go all the way through. But yeah, this was snug and it wasn't enough. So I backed it off, tightened it, backed it off, tightened it, backed off, tightened it until I got just enough that there's no play or wiggle in that ring. That's it. Cool.